So first, what's happened here?
It is a water damage repair, but the repair actual part has been done. The drywall has been done. There's been 2 coats of mud already. The texture's been done. So our job is to now prime it, paint it, make sure it looks like it never happened. So we start with putting some plastic down. This isn't a very big patch, so don't need too much. Just needs to be underneath where we're working. And then we're gonna get set up. So first thing we're gonna do is prime the patch. You never wanna put the finished paint right over the brand new drywall. That'll make it flash, it'll show everywhere you've rolled. So we're basically just sealing the new drywall in. Most important thing, don't buy trays from Home Depot, okay? Painters don't do that. Use a bucket, all right? 2 things you always need to have with you when you're painting: 501 knife, razor knife. You use these constantly, okay? So we're gonna get the primer set up, get that part done. Alright, so she's all primed out. That took about, what, 4 minutes, 5 minutes?
About.
The only thing that you really need to worry about when you're doing the primer, just make sure you feather out the edges. You don't want a hard line where you're stopping. That way it doesn't show through the finished paint.
Okay.
Now the primer's done. We have to wait for it to dry before we can do our finish coat. But we have poker in place, so we don't want to wait very long. So we're going to use this air mover to dry it. If you don't have an air mover, you could even just put a regular fan or a hair dryer in the room, and this will dry your primer 3 to 5 times faster than it would if you were just to sit here. It's going to dry very fast over where the fresh drywall is, but anywhere we overlapped onto the old paint, it is not going to dry very fast. So this air is going to help us get done a lot faster.
Okay, so it's dry now, the primer for the drywall. So without the air dryer, how long would it have taken?
It probably would have taken 20-30 minutes, and with it, we're back in here in 5 minutes, and our plastic's back out, and we're going to do the first coat of paint.
All right, so the ceiling's blue, we got to make it blue again.
Our first coat's done. We're going to repeat the process with the dryer. Anytime you're doing paint over a new primer, you need 2 coats. One thing I will mention is when I rolled this first coat, I went this way. Okay, and then when we do the second coat, we're going to go the other way. Whenever you're walking into a room, you want your second coat to go across the way that your eyes approach when you go in. Otherwise you can see the lines, and that goes for spraying too.
All right, so the first coat is dry. How long would it have taken without the air mover?
Probably about 30-40 minutes, about the same as last time.
And how long did it take with the air mover just going?
It took about 10 minutes. I mean, the finished paint always takes a little bit longer because this has a sheen in it. So it's going to take a little bit longer than a flat like a primer has. So yeah.
All right, and now we're doing the second coat, going the other direction.
Alright, so it's all done. The only thing I will say is we were lucky that the owner knows the exact paint color. If he didn't and we had to get this matched, you would have to go corner to corner and paint it fully. You wouldn't be able to just touch it up like we did. It's still drying, but that's going to dry in all the way, only because they know exactly what color it is and it's not a match. If it wasn't, we would have to paint it corner to corner fully. But yeah, other than that, it's done. It's drying. It took us an hour and 14 minutes to mask off, prime, and paint 2 finish coats with letting it dry each time, so not too bad.
So before we go play Morongo Poker today, a video not so much about poker. Herbs and Rye had some work to do before we go play. So he's a painter, he's a carpenter. This house we're at right now, there was water damage on the ceiling in one of the bedrooms. So the water damage was repaired and new drywall was put up. But we need to put on some primer specifically made for drywall, and then we need to paint it so that the patch that was repaired, now it's the color of drywall, it needs to be blue velvet, the color of the rest of the bedroom. So this is how you do it. These are the mistakes you might encounter. These are the things you might think incorrectly, and if you were going to do it yourself or hire someone, you should know these things. So you're the expert. We need a coat of primer, 2 coats of paint. How long do you think it'll take?
I hope to be done in an hour.
Okay, 1 hour. And it's about, we were in there already, it's about a square, roughly, maybe 5 or 6 feet in each direction. So about 30 square feet, or maybe like 4 square yards, whatever you guys use. What would the cost be if someone didn't want to do it on their own, couldn't do it on their own, went to hire someone, wants to know who they're hiring is honest? What should this cost?
So with something like this, most painters are just going to have a minimum charge. They can't do it by the hour because, again, it's not enough work. It's not worth somebody's time to come out here and get set up to make, you know, $50. So usually you're going to be looking at least a half day plus materials. So depending on what that painter's wage is, you could be looking 200 plus materials to 400 plus materials. It just depends. So obviously if you find a painter closer to the project that you're doing, that's going to be a little bit cheaper. They don't have drive time, gas, etc. But all that factors in, as well as how good the painter is.
And while Herbs and Rye over there is the expert, I've almost never done anything like this, so I'm wondering if someone wanted to do it themselves, the mistakes you might encounter, or maybe it's more difficult than you think, the difficulties you will not encounter, or maybe it's more difficult than you think and you're going to think it's very easy, but I'm wondering what actually goes into this before we go in there and do it. So Herbs and Rye is going to explain that. There's a lot of questions there, but what would be the most common mistakes for someone who wants to take this on as a DIY but doesn't really do handy things like this that much? The common mistakes they might encounter.
Well, the first thing that they would do is probably buy a plastic paint tray liner from Home Depot. That's just going to be a problem for everybody. Those things just fly all over the place. They don't hold paint good. You're just going to make more of a mess than you are get the paint on the ceiling. So use a bucket like I showed you. That's number 1. 2, YouTube it. Don't go to Home Depot and ask the guy at the counter. Those guys have been taught by sales reps. They don't really know what they're doing. A lot of them haven't even worked a day in the field in their life. So you're a lot better off going on YouTube, watching a professional painter do it. This project that we did here today is very easy. Anybody could do it as long as you just are prepared.